okay, you're going to write better than Oli? Well, he might not know the keywords, and he certainly won't have our connections to get this placed in the right places. And it really disappointed me. We chose a path of writing real serious content.
Hello and welcome to the Fractional Executive Podcast. I am your host, Ryan Kauth. The Fractional Executive Podcast is for established founders and family enterprise owners whose businesses are in the $500,000 to $10 million annual revenue range and are currently stuck on a plateau of no growth. Now, in order to help you grow your business and get it off that terrible and frustrating no growth plateau, we need to get more great guests on the podcast, and I have one for you today. But to do that, please help us grow the show by sharing the podcast, like, follow, subscribe, and leave us a 5-star review. And what this does is this helps us grow the podcast, get more great guests on here, like Max coming up, and that will then help you grow your business. And we also want this to be interactive. So please leave comments, feedback, and reach out to us. Contact the show. So our guest today is Max Dunn. Max is the co-founder and president of Silicon Publishing, an electronic publishing services company. Prior, he served as a director of software development, working with large clients like HP, Aetna, and Microsoft. So please welcome Max to the podcast. Max, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.
So Max, you co-founded a copy that constantly has to keep up with technology changes, client trends, and industry disruptions. So for many founders and family business owners, that alone can be really daunting. So what's your secret been over the last couple of decades of doing this?
Well, I have the great fortune to have grown up in the San Francisco Bay Area. And this is where Silicon Valley is, where UC Berkeley and Stanford are. And so I've had a real advantage just being in this area because I get to see technology. I go to Google frequently. I've been to Apple, Google, Adobe. It's just a beautiful area for technology. So hanging out here, I've gotten to meet the movers and shakers face to face. And that's something I kind of learned by osmosis, going to meetups and conventions and such. And I love the bleeding edge. I've always, since I was a little kid, loved the bleeding edge. So seeing things here like the personal computer and social media and virtual reality being invented right in front of me and getting to meet people like Tony Parisi, who invented virtual reality, there's nothing quite like that. So being here and being focused on how things are changing and always interested and excited about change helps me keep up, which is absolutely necessary, as you say. And also our clients, we're blessed with a really cool client list. I think we have about 100 household name clients. We work with Apple, Adobe, Amazon, Google, Hallmark, Disney, Nike, many great clients, and they stay ahead of technology themselves. And we find out, well, what are you working on? There was a photo book editor that told me they settled on MongoDB. What the heck is Mongo? Mongo is a great force of nature technology now. We found out about it the first few months of its existence. So it's really great to be here and to stay on the edge and to work with such wonderful clients and partners. But on another angle, we know we're going to get disrupted, right? No matter how much we stay in touch, something's going to come out of the blue and hit all of us, like when the iPhone came out, when the iPad came out, when Steve Jobs said that Flash wasn't going to go on the phone. We're going to get disrupted. So we have to keep that attitude and that agility to turn on a dime. We're a small company still. And so we have great agility. We can change. We can hire new people that know this new thing. And so that's part of it. And it's not just staying agile. It's also just staying very persistent and never giving up, never conceiving of anything but success and trying to, find ways to get around things that look totally disruptive. Right now AI is in all of our faces. I embraced it. I think it's a great thing. Yes, it's a challenge. Yes, we've got to keep up with it and find ways to work with it.
Max, I love that answer. I mean, I think, first of all, the perseverance and the grit, right? And then the next part, though, I think sometimes some established founders and family enterprise owners don't take that step of going to those businesses or those conferences that might not be directly related to their industry, but might be things where they learn about, the newest technologies and things like that. And then the next part is just knowing other founders and talking to them and what they're doing. I mean, I think all three of those are fantastic answers by themselves to that question. And you kind of came at us with all three of them. So it's fantastic. Throughout your career, what were some of the best lessons that you learned from software development, and as a leader in that, to being the strategic and visionary CEO you are now as the president of Silicon Publishing?
It's been one long series of lesson after lesson after lesson. We're founded by two programmers, and we were two programmers working in a company together. Alyssa was our best programmer, and I was kind of the director. And we were insulated. We were comfortably insulated from the customer service and the project management, the product management, all those things. We kind of thought the world revolved around us, and just building things was great. But we've learned a ton about customer service and about the value of our work. We would measure our effort, which is great. We put in 37 hours. We worked hard, put in this energy. We thought we should get compensated proportional to what we did initially, because we're naive. We're thinking, oh, well, we've got 80 hours. There you go. Pay us for 80 hours. But the fact is that what really matters with clients is the value they perceive for your work and the ROI they get on your work. And so we've learned time and time again, it doesn't matter what level of effort we put in. We need happy clients. It has to be a win-win situation to succeed. And we initially would take any job that came our way. The algorithm was pick up the phone. What do they want? How much do they want to pay? And deal. That was it. We took in the beginning, we got one call a month. Now we get a call every day. But back then we took everything that came our way pretty much. We learned from that. No, you really shouldn't take everything that comes your way. You should carefully set expectations with the client. I mean, this might be basic business 101, but we learned it over 20 years. So we want to know at the outset of an engagement, is it going to be good for both of us? We do our best. Sometimes we talk clients out of things because they imagine we can work miracles. We say, no, it's not a miracle. It's something that's bleeding edge. It might fail. We've had contracts that say, and if it fails, you'll write an explanation of why it fails, because we do work on that kind of bleeding edge software sometimes. So it's got to be win-win. We think proactively into the future, and we are not scared to turn people down. And another aspect of it is scalability. I mean, scaling was a huge challenge. We started with 2 people. Now we're about 30 people. And that with software development kind of has 3 levels. When you're first developing, you can work with one person, and one person can deliver a nice project for a print industry kind of job that we were doing. Typically one person would code the whole thing. 2 of us, we started sharing code, and sharing code is a challenge because you've got to get your head around the other person's code. And it helps to do things like comment, organize the code, make some structure to it. When we got to having 20 people on one project, that was an incredible lesson about, how on earth do you really share code such that people can work concurrently in the same code base effectively. And we were blessed at that time. We hired the InDesign team, the people that had built Adobe InDesign, joined us in 2009, and they knew how to do that, and they taught us how to do that. And I don't know if we would have learned it without their incredible help. But the 2 things you do for scaling a large team of developers: first, you architect the code. You have to have some architecture and organization to the code that facilitates parallel work. That's critical. If it's sloppy code and you're all trying to dive into one lump of spaghetti code, no chance. That was one thing. We got architects. We got more aware of architecture. We focused on a good architecture. We fought incessantly about what the best architecture was, and we came up with good architectures. The second thing is testing. Software testing never bothered me in the beginning. I was like, they'll tell us if it doesn't work. And the product manager from InDesign joined us and said, "Oh my God, your clients are your testers." And I said, "Yeah, that works. They give colorful feedback." And he was like, "Oh no, at Adobe we have 2 testers for every developer." As Christ, I have to hire another 20 people. But man, the first couple testers we hired, they multiplied our efficiency and our speed. Testing is worth it, and specifically, there's many types of testing, but test-driven development, I strongly believe in that right now. 15 years ago, I didn't really know what it was. And also, in general, what we've learned the other 3 dimensions of business. Our focus was always technology. We were technology centric. We're still probably technology centric, but we kind of ignored sales, marketing, and business. Those things, but they're not that important, Well, they are actually, and the last 23 years has been a lesson to respect all those salespeople, those marketing people, and those business people, contracts people especially, that know what they're doing and that live in that domain. We're technologists, we can live in our domain, but to make it a healthy company, we have to handle the other angles.
Max, a lot of your answer has to do with why the podcast was started in the first place. And so just as a reminder to our viewers and listeners, please like, follow, subscribe, leave us a 5-star review, and share the podcast. And interact with us. Drop comments below. If something Max said, thought popped in your head because of that, put a comment down there. Leave us some feedback. Contact the show. And again, the whole goal is we grow the show so you can grow your business and we can get great guests on here like Max. So Max, let's keep going a little bit. How do you make those decisions when you need to proactively scale operations? So, I know you started learning, prior to being a founder in this way, but give me the Max answer for that question.
Decision making, yeah. Before I was a founder, I was working under a bunch of people, and specifically towards the end of that, our time with that company, our little division had been wildly successful, and we were being spun off into a .com scheme, and we saw them make mistakes on decisions. We saw these new people that were making a new company, and we witnessed this the last year we were there. One person was making all the decisions, and so when we started this company, we were already just the 2 of us, intent on sharing our vision, sharing our ideas, and we didn't boil it down to one person. And we comfortably got to about 5 people with that, where we also were very, very careful with hiring. Hiring is absolutely the essence of growing a business. We were really careful with that, and we've done really well at that. We went through a change in our business model as we grew. We were a services company when we started. We were renting out our time by the hour to code things. We found ourselves copying and pasting huge chunks of code, and you can't really bill that by the hour, right? So the value is insane. If you copy something you built for 5 years and paste it, and it's 15 minutes of time, and get a check for $37.50 and move on. That didn't work. So we really became a product company, and that transformation involves new roles, new types of decision, and that just sort of forces you to involve more people. And we started engaging more leaders and more decision makers. And as we grew, we really shared those decisions. And that's key. You cannot, to grow, you have to delegate effectively, which is hard because you don't want to just give away the farm and let someone destroy your company with bad decisions, but you just plain can't make every decision. And we've been blessed the last 3 years. 2019, our competitor died and left us 2 great salespeople and an incredible product manager, product visionary. And they're quite frankly much better than I was at those things. And I was so relieved to get them. And now we've hired some people in the marketing that know what they're doing, unlike me. And the more I delegate, the easier my life is and the more successful we are. But it took a long time, and it takes a long time to find the right people and to establish trust and to understand each other and to share a vision.
Max, what are some of those current marketing challenges in your industry, and how have you and the team at Silicon Publishing met those head on?
Well, marketing is still kind of new to us. We were very lucky to partner with Adobe. Adobe called us the very first day we started and hired us to do some work, and we've never stopped. We do some work for Adobe almost every year. And we learned a lot from them, and we partnered with them in various ways as a reseller and as a solution provider. And they refer us really well. We get listed number one on their site for certain things, and hundreds of their people know who we are and send. That's why we have the household name clients. It's not from our marketing efforts. It's from Adobe's presence and their nice referrals. And that's great, but it also made us really anemic with marketing. It gave us an excuse to fail on that ourselves, and it got kind of embarrassing. So what do we do about marketing? So far, we're kind of on the content marketing side, and we are deep with our writing and our work. That once I went to a company and I asked them, how can we get to the top of Google? How can we be in the first page of search results? And they were saying they could do this. And I said, well, what do you do? And they said, well, you pay us about $7,000 a month. And I thought, okay, maybe, but what are you going to do when I pay the $7,000, right? And they said, well, what we're going to do is we're going to write blog posts and we're going to place articles, and we're going to position you as experts in your field. And I thought about that, and it really puzzled me because we had just hired Olaf Martin Fern, who is the world expert at what we do, the expert, the authority on InDesign automation, because he designed InDesign automation when he was at Adobe. So we had the expert. He also wrote the authoritative book on InDesign, Real World InDesign. And so I was like, okay, you're going to write better than Oli? And they said, well, he might not know the keywords, and he certainly won't have our connections to get this placed in the right places. And it really disappointed me. So we kind of didn't go there yet. We still might, maybe that pays off. But we chose a path of writing real serious content in our blog mainly, and speaking at conferences about real information, and rather than the buzzwords, the SEO words. So that's kind of the deep side of marketing. What we're still learning and trying to learn and getting into more is the surface, trying to explain technical stuff to non-technical stuff, trying to get, a complex 20-page document into like a single 2-minute video or a 1-minute video or a 30-second or an emoji. I mean, the information has to sort of dumb down. I don't know if it's dumbing down, but it's getting more efficient and more effective at being digestible to people that aren't scientists, And so that's our current challenge, and we're just learning about that. And it's a nonstop challenge. There's also a challenge, of course, just to distribute content these days. You're supposed to have, a tweet an hour or something and a Facebook post every day. And that level of content, we're like the cobbler that doesn't have shoes, because we work day in and day out helping large organizations do that. We can spit out 57 sizes of an image in a nanosecond. And that's what you kind of need to do. But we don't do that for ourselves yet. But that's where we're headed, is to apply the tools we're building to our own cause.
Max, earlier you talked about hiring being one of the keys to scaling. And so, my last kind of theme for us to talk about is, how have you found the keys to develop and maintain the culture at Silicon Publishing?
I think that's one of the things we kind of already had or started with, because we learned a lot from our previous company, and we'd experienced a workflow. It's funny, in the print industry, software development was always a component since the 70s, but it was really obscure. And we were like our own little kingdom that was doing this pre-press automation stuff. And we were largely left alone. We didn't have a big hierarchy. We were a flat organization. We were equals. We kind of, it was just a team of people. We didn't think of roles much. And we worked really well. So when Alyssa and I started this company, we wanted to keep that kind of culture. We weren't trying to do anything but keep our old jobs. So we're flat in terms of the hierarchy. Like I said, we're developer centric. We want to make developers' lives easy. We're a remote workforce, which we've always been remote. We've had offices, we've had virtual offices. Now we have a virtual office, but we're largely, people around the world working out of their homes. again, that's very appealing to many developers. And we're client focused. We really have learned that the clients are everything, and we have some clients that have been with us over 20 years. We also have an incredible retention record. 4 of us have been together 24 years. 10 of us have been together 10 years or more, and people don't tend to leave. So it's working in terms of the culture, I think.
Max, this has been really great. I'm really glad you were able to come on the podcast today. I want to give you some time to let our viewers and listeners know how they can get a hold of you, and then talk about some of the projects that you're working on.
Sure. So siliconpublishing.com is probably the main way. We have contact forms there. You can email me, Max Dunn, at siliconpublishing.com, or sales@siliconpublishing.com. And my Twitter handle is Max L. Dunn. Same with LinkedIn. No, LinkedIn is, I don't know exactly my LinkedIn, but I am on LinkedIn. Search for Max Dunn. And then some of the projects, we fundamentally do online editing and database publishing. Those are the 2 main things we do. So we have that continually going on. But some of the fun sort of edges of that are the work we're doing with 3D imaging. So we've been editing 2D documents. Now we're editing 3D objects, which is exciting, and visualizing personalized 3D things. And that's kind of one of the fun bleeding edges of it. The other thing we've been doing for years is scaling document generation and image generation faster and faster and faster. When we started, we were primarily using this tool called InDesign Server. And InDesign Server is the most beautiful, powerful composition tool in the world. But when we met it, it was beastly slow, just ridiculous. We'd watch the thing scroll down the screen and we're like, go, and we spit out a book in hours with this thing. And so we begged Adobe for a server for 5 long years. They gave it to us in 2005. And we've been scaling it exponentially over these last 18 years. We keep making that thing go faster and produce better output, and we augment it with other technologies. And so we're really hitting the limits of speed. We can do things we could never do. 600 documents in a second. We're setting new benchmarks for image generation and response time of document generation. And so it's really fun to work. We have some new experts that are just out there that have really streamlined the speed and scalability of our throughput. So that's a really fun challenge.
Max, those sounds like great projects. You got one that you've been working on for the last almost 20 years, and now you've got kind of a brand new one as well with that 3D. Yeah. That's really cool.
And we are, of course, using AI more creatively and always looking at the edge of that and virtual reality and that sort of thing. So again, being here helps in this part of the world. But we're also just blessed with some really great, people are paying us to master brand new technologies, which is awesome.
Max, again, thank you so much for being on the podcast today. Max, just let you all know how to get a hold of him. And again, to get more great guests on here like Max, I would really appreciate it if you would share the podcast, follow, subscribe, leave us a 5-star review. And again, that will allow you to grow your business as we grow the show and have great guests on here like Max. Max, thank you again.
Thank you.
This is the Fractional Executive Podcast. I am your host, Ryan Kauth. You can get a hold of me at ryankauth.coach. The Fractional Executive Podcast is produced by Influencer.tv, the great team of Mark Livingston, Adam Marino, Chris Dries, and Brian Allen.